and we're going to talk to our special guest, of course, Shawn Whiting, who's been chipping in throughout the whole show. And I think, we should start with you like we start with most of our guests on the show just recently, how you sort of got into VR. What was the sort of beginning road look like? When was you sort of convinced on the VR technology, and kind of what led you up into getting into Rec Room?
Yeah, so I've always been a huge gamer, and I was working in film. And I remember me and all my gaming nerd friends were sitting around like playing something at a LAN party, and then I remember this, we were at a LAN party, and then someone pulls up the Oculus Kickstarter, and they were like, look at this crazy bullshit, like a VR headset, this is fucking ridiculous. And then we saw like Gabe Newell in the video, we're like, wait a minute, is this fucking real? Like, what is this? And I just remember being so skeptical. I was like, no fucking way, what are they talking about? And it disappeared for like a few months, and then eventually someone in my little hometown got one, and me and Hayden, my partner that we started Converge with, one of the like really early virtual worlds, we just started hacking on stuff. We were like, man, this is incredible. I think we started playing like Dread Halls or something, and we were like, oh my god, this is like the next. I was like, this is the future of all media, right? As a film person, I was like, yo, fuck VR as a story, or fuck like film as a storytelling device. Like, I want to tell stories in VR. Like, I just want to know what this new medium can do. It's like a totally fresh like place to explore. So yeah, Hayden and I just started hacking on stuff, and we immediately found that the most compelling thing for us was like networking it so that I could see his headset and he could see mine, and we could voice chat. And we were like, dude, there's something there. So we just started working on this really early, crude looking virtual world called Converge, where you're just a floating head, because that's all we had, right? Like for the DK1, we didn't even have positional tracking, so it was just like nods and this, and like that's it. You didn't even have like forward and backward.
And was Converge like one of the experiences that was on Oculus Share or something like that?
Dude. Yeah.
Nice.
We were so hyped. We got to like the top of Oculus Share, and we're like, we're the best. We're the fucking biggest VR thing in the world.
Nice.
It's like,
and for people that don't know, like Oculus Share was like the really early days of like what SideQuest is now. Essentially, it was like a place for indies to launch experimental stuff for other people to check out, give feedback on. And it was all free, right? From what I remember.
Yeah, everything was free. It was just like a come grab some new shit, like VR hub, right? It's where you would get everything, I think. Besides, maybe some people would throw builds up on like Reddit and you would download them there, but most stuff was up on Share.
Yeah.
Share was
and
great.
Converge was like, it's basically what big screen is nowadays, where you could hang out with people and then watch movies and stuff. But I remember it most from meeting with people from, the community, but also taking selfies. And when Oculus Connect was, happening, people watched it there. There was no other place you could really watch it besides you guys streaming it in Converge.
Yeah, we had a movie theater space. It was all outdoors because I was a huge like Lord of the Rings fan, so I designed the whole exterior space to be in like a magical forest with campfires, which actually kind of became like a social VR meme. Like you see the campfire everywhere now, right? I feel like we were one of the first people to do that, because I was like, man, I go camping a lot. It's like such a natural way to group people up. You see a fire, you come up to it, you have a conversation. It's just like deep in the human psyche to be like, a campfire is this social like attraction space. So I was proud that I feel like we like hit on that first, and then we've seen a bunch of other people run with it. Converge was fun.
So from Converge, like, were you expecting to get like funding or like traction to get like support from manufacturer maybe, or devs to push something else, or what was the plan from there?
Yeah, we were looking into raising a bunch of money. We did get some money and go through Y Combinator, which is one of the big startup accelerators in San Francisco. So we did go through that, which was a great experience. They really know their shit when it comes to building a company. And then I think Hayden and I just hit a burnout point like a year and a half, 2 years in, where we had been doing this all with our own savings, and we were depleting our savings, and we were not living a healthy life. We were like living off Soylent and like spaghetti and living together in a small apartment, working 12 hours a day. And we were just like, listen, we're either going to raise a bunch of money and hire a bunch of people and keep doing this for X number more years, or we can like see what's out there. and we both got really good jobs out of the project. Like Hayden went to big screen and I went to Pluto VR for a while, and we thought that was a good outcome. And it was a hell of a journey. Like we built a really nice community out of it. And then I left Pluto maybe like a year and a half after that, and then I've been at Rec Room for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Nice. And how did is Hayden still not work? He's not working for big screen anymore, is he?
No, so he went from big screen to working on a thing in New York called Insight VR. They do like architectural and design. Like they'll take your model, import it, and take it from like 4 billion polys down to like 10,000. So they make stuff like actually able to be like viewed and processed in VR by these giant like architecture and design firms. They're doing really good work.
Nice.
But yeah, Hayden just left them after being there for, you know, that similar amount of time, 1.5 to 2 years, and now Hayden is at Apple.
Oh wow, nice.
Yes.
Doing a VR headset for Apple. Nice, confirmed. No, I'm joking. So cool. So like, what happened then? So you were working with Pluto, and what made you wanted to leave and then join Rec Room? Like, what sort of state were they in at that point? Had they launched, or were they just still in development?
Yeah, so Pluto is a really cool project or product. They make a thing where they're the most interested in the whole like overlay application space. So like what Pluto does is you can be in any VR experience and I will just like load in on top of that. Like you're in Tilt Brush or you're in Rec Room and you're playing paintball, and then I'll just kind of appear, and if you're running Pluto, I'll just appear into your like somewhere in your space, and then I'll just start chatting with you because you can render like that person, that avatar, using like the open VR layer.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Pluto is kind of this communication layer that sits on top of everything else. And it was cool to work on. I think what I realized after a while was I really want more of a community vibe. Like I want to grow a community and be working on something that just hits more of my skill set there. Like that's the thing I really enjoyed in Converge, was interacting with the community, getting their feedback, putting it into the product. And Pluto, as cool as it is more of a, feels like more of a like utility, right? It's more of like a Skype of VR type thing. And I just wasn't able to like use my community building skills as much as I'd like. So I started like looking around, and I was like, oh, I think, the Rec Room guys are in Seattle. They're probably a better fit. So hopped over there.
And were they already established at that point? Are they launched already, or?
Yeah, they had been going for some number of months or a year, I think, before I went over, but it was still pretty small number of people at the time. Yeah.
So Against Gravity, the studio who makes Rec Room, were they already doing something before they started making this social VR experience?
So we're actually called Rec Room Inc. now. It's just Rec Room Incorporated. We changed the name from Against Gravity because a bunch of people were like, oh, like Against Gravity Studio, what else are you guys gonna release? And we were like, nothing, it's just Rec Room. Like it's Rec Room till we die. Like, and they were like, oh, okay, so Against Gravity makes Rec, and we were like, why don't we just make this easy?
Yeah,
like it's just call. Rec Room Inc. We make Rec Room. That's what it is. So yeah, we're Rec Room Inc. Although I do still have a bunch of shirts that say Against Gravity that I enjoy wearing around.
So those were the humble beginnings of the studio too, or was there anything else that they experimented with before Rec Room came about?
No, man, it was really just like they had that idea from the start. The founders, a lot of them met at Microsoft working on the HoloLens project. So they were all kind of like XR natives, like they understood how to build like immersive, fun stuff. And I think the initial launch of Rec Room was built in, it was like a month or two. They built everything that they launched with, and it was like dodgeball, charades, and maybe one other game, and then like a lobby area. It was like super sparse. Like that's our whole, like that's how we operate, right? Is we make something very quick, we ship it, and then we get feedback from the community. It's not like this development for 3 years and then ship, and then you're like, oh fuck, nobody wants this, we're fucked. So yeah, we move fast, and we always try to experiment with stuff, and then obviously iterate with feedback from the community.
It's been around for 4 years now.
Yeah, I think we're at 4 years.
Wow.
Also,
Impressive.
like on almost every platform as well. You're on Oculus, you're on Steam VR, PSVR, and now even the iOS App Store as well.
Yeah.
Maybe you can share some like the difficulties of shipping to some of those platforms. Are some easier than others? Does some have like specific challenges?
Yes.
What has been the most difficult route for you?
Well, first I'll say, because a lot of people, especially the VR OGs that just have played like paintball and laser tag or the Quest, I think a lot of people still have this misconception about Rec Room that it's like it's a VR thing only, and it's like, man, vast majority of people now play Rec Room on Steam without a headset, on PS4 without a headset, on their iPhone without a headset, on their iPad without a headset. So, I mean, our like design and everything is definitely rooted in VR, and we still use VR a ton when we're developing. But yeah, the number of platforms we're on now is, Oculus Home, Oculus Quest, PS4, PSVR, Steam, 2D, like Steam normal games, Steam, all the Steam headsets, all the iPhones from like the iPhone 6 up, all the iPads. So it's a large number of platforms to support, and I will say there's more coming. I can't say any more than that.
Microwave support is coming? Microwaves?
Your smart
fridges.
Yeah. Smart fridge. No, but Rec Room, that's like
is it gonna be 3D head?
Oh,
3D head.
I remember that.
It's such a good thing, though. Like
be.
that, I think that really supports you. I'm really curious, though. I don't know if you're able to say it, but the split between flat and VR.
Yeah.
I'm curious what that ratio is like for you now, because I would say among my friend base, it's probably like a 75-25, like 25% being VR. Yeah.
It might be close to that. I haven't looked at that chart recently, but I think the last time I looked it was 60-40, something
60-40.
like that. And obviously that fluctuates, right? Like when new VR hardware comes out, like VR will start to surge back, but it's just a mathematical certainty, right? Like as we grow, there'll be more growth in screens than VR because there's fucking 120 million PS4s out there, right? So
yeah, of course,
we can hit max saturation on those headsets way faster than we're going to hit max saturation on every iPhone on the planet.
And out of those platforms, is there one that stands out as being like a real pain? Like, is there one real difficult one for you?
I mean, shipping to the App Store via iOS is always full of its own unique certifications, and you've seen a lot of people complaining about Apple recently in the news, so I don't want to pile onto that, but like submitting to iOS is always a thing. There's a lot of boxes to check, things to make sure you got right. Shipping to PS4 moderate, and then shipping to Steam and Oculus is just very fast. It's like almost flipping a switch.
Interesting.
But there's
that's
more,
interesting.
more review process, I would say, on Sony and Apple or iOS.
And this is the thing, like, because the app has always been free, right?
Yeah, always free.
So
Always
there's a
gonna be
lot,
free.
obviously a lot of work goes into this, and it's a free app. So the question always is like, how do you monetize? Like, how do you keep the company afloat? Like, and what does that look like going forward?
Yeah, so it's all in-app purchases. So like Zim was saying, like, hey, you can come in, and if you want to have a pizza party with your friends, you got to spend what we call tokens. So tokens are stuff you get by playing games, or if you build really cool rooms, we actually send token drops to people to thank them for like, hey, you built a really cool room and you got this many visits this month. Like, here's a huge batch of tokens just because you're like providing value to the community, right? And then if you don't want to wait, or you're like, I don't care about building, I don't want to build, you can just buy tokens. So like you can go into the store and then spend real money, you get Rec Room tokens, and then you can spend that on avatar items. And we're always putting out new avatar items. I think we just launched like a unicorn horn and some Pegasus wings, and people just flip out, right? They're like, I need those wings. Like, it sounds like Zim knows. But,
no, I know exactly. I know exactly. I'll tell you why. I saved up 1,000 Rec Room tokens, and I was so happy. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to go for, I think it was a 4-star box. I love that you've got these random boxes. And so I bought it, not knowing that there was no gender priority on the boxes, and I got a polka dot dress that I wear to this day proudly.
Yeah, there's no.
Did you
we
wear
don't
it, Zim?
have,
Wait, Zim, did you wear it?
I wear it I wear it all the time. My daughter loves
Okay,
it. Loves me in my polka dot dress. But no, like that system of, you can earn it like through your own time. Helps bond you to it. And the other thing that I think is really smart, which has brought me and a few of my friends in, and I literally just posted into my Discord the latest weekly challenge, is like there's an item, which is an item skin, which isn't, maybe it's a one-time thing or maybe gets revisited later. But like I am so proud of my watermelon shotgun, and I worked hard for that.
Dude.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like those items are
so-
amazing. I love all those skins.
People put whole themes together. We have I think we have 3 or 4 pieces of watermelon gear, and I saw a guy with like a watermelon hat, watermelon shotgun, and like a watermelon shirt, and he was like, "I'm fucking ready." I was like, that's great.
Love it.
But yeah,
That's
the
the
weekly
thing, though,
challenges are cool.
I do have to say that, like, if you look at like the quality of like everything that Rec Room delivers, especially in terms of like the game modes that you have, it's better than like probably the majority of the VR games that are just generally out there. Like I remember like a lot of people or a lot of VR developers were trying to do the battle royale thing, but none of them have so far like convinced me as much as the one in Rec Room, which was kind of insane that it's like a free experience in a free game. I think that's amazing.
It's very clean, and when I first played it, it reminded me a bit of like the kind of Nintendo kind of vibe, like Wii Island or something. So yeah, like the quests and everything, from design, from gameplay, it all works great. And then you of course rolled out the whole like worlds thing where people now have tools to just make whatever they want, and I think that's really what made Rec Room like extremely popular.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. The creation tools. So for people that aren't familiar, we have something in Rec Room called the Maker Pen, and it just kind of looks like a glue gun, and it came out of charades. Like we have a game called Charades where you pull a card and then you have to draw something in the air, and it's like a 3D drawing, right? And then eventually people were like, hey, we want to build more stuff with this, and we were like, shit, how are we going to do this? And then someone was like, just take the charades pen and make it into some sort of gun that makes shapes. And that's like where the Maker Pen came from, right? So all that entire room, Zim, that you played, the Lost River Delta, all of that was built using that, like people using that Maker Pen to just extrude shapes and then spit out what we call circuits. So they're these little visual like circuit boards, and then you wire them up to do like, hey, when you get in the ride, it moves the thing forward. And
it's visual programming, actually, is what it is.
They're visual programming.
I'm really, I've been trying to go through videos and stuff to kind of teach myself and my daughter how to use the Maker Pen, and I've not managed it so far. I've gotten not very far. If someone wants to start down that road and create stuff in Rec Room, what are the best resources that they can go to, Shawn?
Totally. So there's on our website, if you go to Rec Room, I think it's recroom.com/creative. But if you just go to recroom.com, we have a link at the top that says, creative. There's another one that has community that has some resources. But the creative site has a bunch of classes you can take. So you'll like hop in with other players like once a week, and they'll just teach you in real time, like, in a room. Like, here's how you use... And they're all like, there's some for different languages. There's one here that's like the French Maker Pen class. There's the German Maker Pen class. There's, different languages. We've got different time zones, British Maker Pen class, circuits, how to do circuits, how to build like a PvP game, how to build that. So there's like a huge community of people
it's
in there.
Insane.
That
is completely insane.
And
I think, certainly, community made content is the way the future is going. We've seen it with Dreams on PSVR. Like there's only a finite amount of VR developers out there. So if you just open up the tools to the community, they're so creative, so passionate that they will come up with the most amazing stuff. Like we talked about like the devouring experience in VR chat a couple of weeks back, which was basically like a 5-hour cooperatively playable horror experience where you're in a mansion with your friends, all made in VR chat from the community, and it's amazing.
Awesome.
And I'm sure we're going to see more of that. Is there a kind of a limitation to the scope with Rec Room? Like, is there a limit to what people can build there in terms of like a story sort of content like that?
So there is a limit, and then there's also no limit, because there is a limit the amount of stuff that you could put in a room. because like if you just fill the room with infinite polys and infinite logic running all these calculations, you're just going to break people, right, when they load in.
Right.
So there's a limit in what you can do per room, but you can attach any number of rooms in a sequence. So there's really no limit. You just have to break it up in a smart way, right?
Yeah.
So that Lost River Delta map could be a 10-hour experience. It's just they would have to break that up into however many rooms. And what we call that is the ink cost. So it's like you can only have so many shapes, so many textures, so much game logic in there before you hit a point where we've calculated like, okay, at this point you're really going to start dropping frames, or you're going to start like crashing on certain devices. And then we also have a smart level of detail system that sits on top of that and says, hey, when you load into this room on Quest or an iPhone 6s or whatever, this is the level of detail you're going to get to optimize for that platform. So
Right.
you as a creator just build once, and then now your stuff is shipped to, I think, probably billions of devices, which is kind of crazy, right? Like,
That's insane. Yeah.
if you look at all the PS4s, all the VR headsets, everyone on Steam, everyone on iPhone and iPad, the fact that you can just create a room in Rec Room and then it's like, hey, now billions of people can like get into this thing, it's insane. And we've got some rooms that have like 2, 3, 4, 5 million visits now. So you look at those numbers and you're like, this is better numbers than most VR games ever get, right? And this is for one experience in one app. Like, it's nuts how fast that ecosystem
with
can
so
grow.
many, you know, if you indeed say like, you know, so many millions of devices, like how do you control like the, you know, the privacy in Rec Room in that kind of way? Because of course, if you're exposed to that many people, you have always bad apples in between that will try to spoil the experience for everyone.
Good
So
question.
how do you control for that then?
Yeah, we had to spin up a security team recently because the more devices you're on, the more like the bigger target you are, right? Like when Rec Room's a small thing, nobody cares. But once it's like, oh, have you heard of Rec Room? And you get more people, now it's like a bigger thrill to like fuck with that app or that community, right?
More trolls.
So most of the issues we have with that are on PC, just because you can do more on a PC. So we started using Easy Anti-Cheat, which is the Epic Games thing, which really locks a lot of stuff down, verifies stuff. But it's really only a PC problem. Like there's not a lot of people hacking their PS4s or like hacking their iPhones to like get into stuff they shouldn't. It's just like a PC problem, and you know, we've dealt with a lot of it, but now we have an ongoing security team that looks into big problems like that.
And so this kind of brings us onto Facebook Horizon, because this is something we talked about recently on the show. And they've got some really robust tools for like keeping track of their community and what they're up to. And that is that, you know, the headset
That's the way to say it.
Yeah, is like it's recording all the time in the background of every single user. So you know, I think it's 3 or so minutes, records on loop to the headset, and then if you in the situation where you need to report something, that clip is kind of saved and then sent to like a security team at Facebook who reviews it. They can log in remotely and see the activity and hear it going on in real time. And they can also make appropriate action, like sort of banning users and stuff like that. How do you think? First of all, what is your opinion on that? And then how do you think, you know, managing a community in a social, in any social app, you know, because you've got many across the board there, and how it sort of compares between what Horizon are doing, what you're doing, what VRChat are doing, and others?
Yeah. I mean, it freaks me out at a personal level. Like I watched somebody's video where they were like, hey, it's my first Horizon experience. And I was like, oh yeah, let's see like what Horizon's like. Like I'm super interested, right? Like I want to see their take on social VR. It should be, you know, something that we can all learn from. So yeah, I watched this video, and like one of the first things this person sees is like, hey, by the way, like you're being recorded the whole time, like your device is recording you, and if you need to, we're going to pull a clip from that, which is like, it's a cool feature. It's just weird to know that, especially with Facebook, right? It's like, hey, we're always watching, and by the way, like we will just be watching you live at some points and you won't know it. So it made me feel a little weird. I don't know what that like live watching is. Are they watching like literally through your headset view, or are they like spawning a camera or someone floating around invisibly? Like I don't like the idea of like someone's watching me and I don't know it.
From what I understand, it's that it is invisible, but it will only happen in the event of something actually being reported as inappropriate behavior.
It works like a CCTV. So you've got a looping local recording that's happening. And then if that triggers, that gets sent, essentially pushed to the cloud, and they can review it. But it is not, as I understood it, someone ghosting you and watching in real time. Unless when you pull the alarm, then they're watching to see, oh, this person's being actively harassed. I'm not clear if that was a feature.
Right. Okay. That's got to hit your perf a little though, right? To constantly be caching video and audio onto your like device, especially on the Quest, like to record all those pixels at however many frames and the audio, and then to
a certain
upload
degree, like we record obviously content on the Quest regularly anyway, and it doesn't hit it as bad as you probably think it does. Like playing games when you're normally and playing games recorded, for me, doesn't necessarily feel any different. I don't know about you guys, if you notice any sort of like performance issues when recording.
They have a separate part of the chip, I think, that is specifically designed to for that kind of part. I think it's very much like, for example, like PlayStation also records, and it also doesn't really affect your gameplay session, or like the how is it called on the Nvidia, like the rewind function,
shadow play or whatever.
Shadow play. I think I mean, I'm not saying it's the same kind of technology, but the same kind of concept that they're using as well, to have like a reserved portion of the chip or of the device specifically designed to do the recording.
When recording, particularly if you're recording in a stressed component of a game on Quest, you'll notice it then. If you use things like, for instance, Virtual Desktop has kind of a mild overclocking feature to up the clock rate, that can help alleviate it, to kind of offset. But again, then you're chewing through the battery, you're heating up your Quest a bit more. So I think what they're doing, as Rowdy says, it's a compartmentalized component, and it feels like it's chewing on maybe 5 to 10%, but it's not enormous.
So how do you do it in Rec Room? Because in Rec Room you can also report people on getting harassed or someone doing something. So what happens when I, let's say, report someone?
Yeah. So I don't want to go into a lot of detail on exactly how the system works, because that's when people start abusing it, right? Like if I lay out exactly how the report system works, that's when people are like, oh, now we know how to, fuck with it.
Now I know when to troll and when I should not troll.
Yeah, I will say it's nothing similar to what Horizon is doing. We don't monitor to that extent. We get enough information on the reports to take action, and we have a lot of people that we work with in the community, like volunteer moderators, who will like send us reports, and those reports surface a little bit higher because they're people we've identified that have like good moderation histories. So we have people that are, and they're identified, they're like in rec centers and you can see who they are. But that's kind of our philosophy, and we take privacy very seriously. Like we have different rules for private rooms versus public rooms. Like you can do way more stuff in a private room than you can in a public room. So I'm kind of curious, like for the Horizon recording thing, like if I'm in a private room with a group of friends and then somebody like reports me as a joke or because they actually don't like something I said, and then 3 minutes of my like private conversation is uploaded to Facebook. Like, is that what's going to happen? Like, that feels really gross to me. Like, does that system still operate in private rooms? Like, do they have private rooms? Is somebody going to start viewing me from a like third person angle in a private room I created as I'm discussing something? Like,
I don't know for sure, but I think it's like a feature across the board, regardless of whether.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, because like I said that a couple of episodes ago as well. The last thing that Facebook wants is the kind of groups being formed on their platform that they do not want. And I'm thinking like terrorists or like pedophiles or like something that is just doesn't belong on the kind of platform. And if they deliver a private room that doesn't have any kind of form of reporting, I think they'll get into bad waters that they want to avoid at all costs.
Yeah, I like the point that you're making there, Shawn, in terms of the feeling. I've had it before on Twitch back in my Twitch years, that when they rolled out the clipping feature, it worked similarly, and that the second the viewer presses clip, it does a back roll of I think a minute to a minute and a half, and sometimes the way that that's framed and then published, it can look really odd or you put you in a very bad light, and that's kind of immediately in that space public. In this case, you're putting a 3-minute clip into the hands of someone who's taking judgment against you, your account, your future on the platform, So especially because it's 3 minutes rolling back, that captures a lot of conversation in terms of the context, doesn't it?
And does that impact just your Oculus account, or like if you fuck up in Horizon, are they going to nuke your whole Facebook? Like, these are all unanswered questions, right?
I think from what they've said on the safety video is that you'd be banned from Horizon. I don't think it would affect your Facebook standing. Yeah, I'm not quite sure on that 100%, but I'm pretty sure it's just Horizon. But I'm kind of interested, like, in terms of like when people report content or inappropriate behavior in Rec Room, do they generally supply clips of the incident, or is it just descriptive, or how does that generally work?
Some people do supply clips. We have like support and moderation people on Discord 24/7 that are like, taking images or videos or text reports in person. We have a support site called Happy Fox, which is kind of like a service that does all the email ticketing. We have people sending stuff there, but the vast majority of reports are people reporting with text, either and you can report almost anything in Rec Room, right? You can report a room, a player, an invention, an event, like anything that is a user created item, like someone can report it, and then that surfaces to us on a kind of back-end moderation platform we have that says like, hey, this is getting reported a lot by people with like higher trust, like better moderation history, so it surfaces higher, or we're getting a higher volume, and then we just triage all of that. And we have a dedicated team of people that are just constantly working through this flow of like high urgency things.
So what I'm like wondering is that, this is something we have been talking about before, is that like every social VR platform has their different level of what's acceptable. You have VR chat who has a certain bar of what's fine and what isn't. Rec Room has that too. There are things that I've seen or experienced in Rec Room where I'm like personally, I think it's funny, but then other people might not. And then it's up to you guys to find out if that's, okay to show to others.
Right.
But if I think about Facebook Horizon, I think about a pretty serious platform. Like Facebook as a name doesn't sound to me like, for example, the people that you have in Rec Room, when they come over to Facebook Horizon, I'm not sure if they would be so happy with the same kind of like things they are doing. So I don't know what you think.
That brings us actually
like,
to a question of the chat, because people have been wondering that as well. Like, do you see Facebook Horizon as a competition, as a rival, or is it maybe something entirely different?
I think what I would say is imitation is the highest form of flattery.
That's a great quote. I love that. That's great. Perfect.
And do you think, I know it's maybe something you can't answer, but was there any point where maybe Facebook were like, hey, let's just buy Rec Room instead of like making our own?
I don't know. That wouldn't have been a conversation I would have been involved in, that's for sure.
Okay, fair enough. But also, like, just a quick question about privacy again and like moderation. Say someone sends in a text report, like, oh, this player did this and said this. It must be difficult to sanction any form of punishment if it's just a written like form and there's no necessary like evidence to back that up. And I think that's although obviously people don't like a surveillance state, or some people disagree with what Horizon is doing, at least if someone does report something, there's the evidence there instantly. So there is some argument there that it's kind of like an interesting system.
Yeah, our system, it does collect some amount of evidence. I don't want to say exactly what it is.
Sure.
It's not as what I would consider as
intrusive.
It's not as invasive as what like a fully recorded video, audio, etc. But we get a lot of details about like what was happening in the room, what was going on around that event that we can look at. And generally the people that are causing the most problems, it's very clear. Like there's a lot of reports saying the same thing. Right. You can look at like other stuff that they've input into the account, like names they're choosing for themselves, etc. And it's generally pretty clear like when someone's out of line. So it's not something where we really typically need a lot of nuance or to go deep into this sort of thing. Like a lot of the worst actors are, like the system does a great job currently, in my opinion.
And what are the sort of sanctions for those people? Do they get banned from Rec Room? Do they have is it temporary bans, lifetime bans, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the severity of what they've done, and we have a code of conduct that we keep, that we reference for all this stuff. So yeah, it can be anywhere from, hey, you're going to get a 24-hour ban to, you're permanently banned if you create a bunch of rooms and they've got awful themes, and you've really messed with people, crashed their game, done whatever. Like, you could go straight to a permanent ban. But generally, most people are just kind of trying to find the line of like, hey, where can I go here? So for people like that, we don't want to permanently ban them. That's not a good outcome. We want to say, like, listen, you breached the code of conduct. That's not cool. Take a 24-hour break. We write you a message saying what you did and how not to do it again, and here's the code of conduct. And a lot of people correct their behavior, right? I think a lot of people just online in general have the attitude of like, moderation is a joke and nobody does it. And then when they run into Rec Room and we're like, actually, you will have to abide by the code of conduct.
So it's like a healthy ecosystem in that sense. What do you like? We don't really know, because not many people have been banned from Facebook Horizon yet, but I feel like they're way more serious about that stuff, where a joke that would get you 5 days banned in Rec Room might get you banned for like a month in Facebook Horizon.
Yeah, I think they have to be, and it's understandable because it's Facebook. So if something awful happens in Facebook Horizon and that gets a bunch of like YouTube hits or press, like, it's going to be very, very bad for them, right? So they're going to want to really lock it down, really be like, listen, you're on your Facebook account, don't fuck this up, don't do anything stupid, because if Facebook's seen having a bunch of crazy awful things happening there, that's just a nightmare PR problem for them, right? So they've got to really play it tight, which is potentially going to backlash on them, because really strict moderation is not the friend of like really engaging conversations or gameplay, because it's like, if you're always like, like someone watching me, or really like measuring your words carefully, that's not like they're kind of conflicting goals, right? Of like, a really open environment where you can find people and, say whatever, have these conversations, but, I don't know, maybe they can make it work, but it's a hard line to walk.
But let's say Facebook Horizon becomes like extremely popular in the upcoming like months. Do you still think there is can Rec Room still coexist on the same platform? Because what I understand from Facebook is that Horizon is going to be the main hub of your Quest, and I think they're also going to heavily integrate it within the software. So the other social experiences are still going to be there, but since Facebook owns the platform and the store, they can promote Horizon as much as they want. They can always put it on the front page, for example, or they can make sure that they can make something but tell you that you're not allowed to do that. Like we have seen it with Darshan with Big Screen. He wanted to do certain things, but then Facebook said like, no, we don't want to do that because we have our own plans.
Yeah, I mean, there is a risk there. Yes, I think it's probably going to be more of a positive though, right? Because if they send out like new hardware and then a bunch of people are buying it and a bunch of people are hopping in Horizon and they're like, hey, this social experience is kind of cool, like what other social experiences can I have? Like, it's just going to lead people into VR chat, Rec Room, Big Screen. Like it's a if they want to throw hundreds of millions of dollars into like a marketing campaign being like, yo, social VR exists, like hell yeah, do it, please do it. Like it's only gonna
So you're
everyone. I feel like
you're saying they wouldn't mind if there are more people playing Rec Room in the end than there are people in Facebook Horizon, and Rec Room still kind of steals the show on the Quest.
I mean, you'd have to ask them. I would assume that would not be the best outcome for them. But it's like, I don't know. I still kind of see it as early days, right? Like the number of people on the planet that have had a social VR experience is still probably 1% or fewer, right? Like almost no one knows about this shit. So to me, it's like anyone who wants to take a shot on goal and bring something to the table, like please go for it. Like we're all going to learn from it. I just wish there was more to learn from Horizon than it looks like there is.
I got a question. I know we've dabbled in a lot of the kind of policing and policy stuff, but you label yourself, Shawn, as a bit of a community guy, and you seem to be spirited by that. It seems to kind of put the air in your hot air balloon. What's an example or two that you can recount from Rec Room where like it surprised you or something really interesting happened? Any stories like that to share?
I mean, a lot of our development has been community driven. It's like, when we initially just had all of our first party games, it was the community that really pulled the like creation tools out of us. They were like, hey, we want to mod soccer into a ultimate disc golf field. And they were like, can we spawn a disc in the soccer field? And we were like, why the hell do they want this? Whatever, just do it. So we built a sandbox machine where you could cycle through all the items in the game and just put them in wherever. And then people were building all these crazy cool games. And we were like, oh shit, like they used that field for this and this room for that. And then people were like, it's really a hassle to have to respawn this stuff every time. And we were like, well, shit, I guess we should let them save the room state with all those objects in it. And then we did that, and now you've got your custom game. And now they're like, hey, we'd really like to change the level. And we're like, well, shit, now we have to add like something that lets them construct. And that's where the maker pen came in. And then they're like, we want to change the gameplay logic. And we're like, well, now we need circuits so that they can like write their own, scripting for when a player gets hit with this, here's how much damage. And they've given themselves like player classes. So people have reconstructed like TF2 in there where you're a scout, or when you shoot someone with the medic class, you heal them. So like they've done everything possible basically at this point. And it all comes out of like that community feedback, that community interaction. So, I mean, the most magical thing that the community has done for Rec Room is basically create Rec Room, right? Like they guide the development. It's really the community's game, and that's especially evident now when you go in and you look at the hot list of rooms. Our rooms are not the hottest rooms. It's all of the stuff that the players have built. Like it used to be like paintball, all the quests, laser tag, rec royale. You look at the list now, and that list is sorted by like what rooms have the most people in them, what rooms are getting the most visits. It's mostly stuff that players have created, which is like they're creating stuff that's getting way more engagement than paintball or rec royale. It's like they're doing it. Like they've built this whole universe of content.
That's really interesting, because when I was logging in to get the names of the things I wanted to mention at the start of the show, I noticed that, and I think it's a really wholesome choice that you're not just pinning your own content, because obviously there's a two-way street there, and it's been advantageous both for the players and you guys, because it helps you if you've got better content. But it's really nice to see that actually you're letting the community created stuff float to the top where it deserves to be.
I think as well, like also with this like user generated content, it could be that you are inspiring a whole future generation of game developers that you don't necessarily know it. That they're going to end up on one of these documentaries. Like I actually started off in Rec Room. I was building rooms and people were enjoying it, and that kind of led me on to a career in game development.
Dude, we've already seen that happening. It's insane. People form these development teams in Rec Room where it's just like, oh dude, so and so always does the circuits for so and so's rooms, and they're like celebrities in Rec Room, right? Like they go into a rec center and everyone's like, oh my god, it's him, it's the creator of like my favorite game, and people lose their shit.
That's amazing.
And you can subscribe to people in Rec Room. So there are some people that have like, I think like tens or hundreds of thousands of subs, and when they publish a new room, just like you guys publish a new video, it pings everyone in Rec Room and it hits their email, and it's like, hey, that guy you love, his rooms, he just published a new room, and people go in and they check it out. And we've had a lot of people be like, hey, I learned how to program through doing circuits in Rec Room, and now I'm going to Carnegie Mellon for programming, like
wow.
Or now
That's
I'm
insane.
going to learn game dev at this like college. So we've had a lot of people that are like, Rec Room really turned me into a like game dev. So I would encourage everyone out there who's like, man, I want to like get into game dev or design games, design experiences. If you're like, if Unity intimidates you, like check out Rec Room, because it's kind of a lighter sort of engine, right? It's like, hey, I can build this experience. And with Unity, it's like, okay, now you publish that and you're going to like put it on a subreddit or what, I guess you could try to upload it to Steam or something. But like in Rec Room, if you publish that and drive traffic to it, you're instantly on PS4, iPhone, like you're on the iPhone and the iPad, and you didn't have to go through any of the cert. Like you didn't have to go through any of the certification, any of the issues. You're in every region on PS4, you're on Steam, you're on Oculus, you're on the Quest. Like that's an incredible like opportunity for people that want to put out like
Basically,
games or whatever.
Nathan's going to quit YouTube and become a content creator in Rec Room now and just earn tokens, you know. You're going to sell it to him.
They can pay me with tokens, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So one last thing, I don't want to tease you too much, Shawn, but you know, Rec Room has a reputation of being, well, let's just say it like this, like family-friendly game. That's what I call it nowadays. Like there are a lot of young people in there. So
definitely.
Are you guys like, you're like fine with that like name in a way? Are you like, we want to target more adults, we want more people to get in there?
I think, yeah, we've always had a motto of like, we want to be a open and welcoming community for like people from all walks of life, everyone. And that's, you know, people that are 13 and younger, or 12 and younger, they have to be on junior accounts. So, you know, they can't like, it's all the COPPA laws, right? You can't disclose, you know, your full name. You can't change your name because they'll write like, my name's Johnny Smith and here's my home address. And you're like, no, Johnny, no, don't do it. Like, so you have to have different accounts for the real young kids. But we certainly have a lot of teens on the platform. There's a lot of people that are, teens on their iPhone or PS4 and their Quest. And they're really just the most active VR people out there, right? Like a lot of the older people like me, it's like, man, we got jobs and whatever. But remember when you were in middle school, high school, college, like that's your prime like free time gaming days. So for us, it's like, listen, they're active, especially now with COVID, right? It's like a lot of people aren't in school, they're at home. So we've been blowing up in terms of numbers with the pandemic, which is kind of like a weird silver lining as you watch all these other businesses struggle, which just like, what do people want right now? They want to hang out with their friends and family and have some fun and escape the house they've been in for 5 months straight. Like, so all these virtual worlds I think are doing really well. And yeah, it's like every virtual space kind of gets its own like community vibe, you know, like VR chat is definitely like the anime people, the weebs, the like the super creative avatar people that want full body tracking and that sort of thing. Like it's got its own vibe. And
I think an 8-year-old would not survive in VR chat. I don't
except
think
for
so.
that one kid who's amazing, the kid that Sirmore is always talking to, you know, that really young kid who's so Sirmore does this, what does he call him? It's like he goes around VR chat and he just talks to people. One kid he always talks to is like Jordan or something. He's
he was like this little
avatar.
bird kind of.
It's adorable. Yeah. But every one of these worlds has their own vibe, right? Like Rec Room's vibe is probably, I would say, younger, more energy, games, like building these worlds. VR chat is more just like pure social interaction, like dress up, that cosplay vibe. The Wave is more like, hey, we're all deeply into music. We really like this, like, you know, the dark EDM, like the neon colors, like they've got their own vibe. And then I'm curious to see what Horizon's vibe turns into. Like it's a big question mark right now. Like you can't answer that question until you get all the people in there.
Yep.
But I mean, you can look at some of their marketing materials and see what they're going for. And it's like, it is what it is. Like
to an extent that builds itself. I think those communities, you know, you can guide it, you can put rails up and you can push it in a certain direction, but what it turns into is very much up to the users.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. And maybe like, you know, we should probably take some questions from the chat, but the one question I want to ask you before we do that is what's the sort of roadmap? What's the plan for the future of Rec Room? Have you got anything you can share with us or some ideas, you know, maybe augmented reality is going to be a thing in the future for you guys, you know, anything you can share with us?
Dude, we have an AR thing right now that people can go do. If you have an iPhone or an iPad, we have an augmented reality thing. I forget the name of the room but you go into a certain room. It's called like AR room or AR experiment. And then if you're on an Apple device, an iPhone or an iPad that has the depth camera, I forget what device class it is, but you can scan your room, and that room scan is loaded into this Rec Room space. And then as people join that room, they're just like overlaid on top of your real world environment. So we've had a lot of people in their house just like, hey, I'm hanging out with my friends in my living room. And they're like literally sitting on the couch because the that geo is in the room. Like you scan your room and then they see like the outline of a couch, and then it makes actual geometry in that space, and they like plop their avatar on it. We did an experiment like this, and I posted it on Twitter. So like Rec Room AR experiment.
That sounds insane.
Yeah,
you know, like obviously
Google...
right now, if you're looking around your room with a phone, it's like the smallest little window. But of course, in the future, AR glasses, from Apple and everyone else is inevitable.
It's like an awesome
that you'll be able to look
crossover.
around and just see your friends there.
Yeah, it's like VR meets AR and the other way around, because someone is in VR, but you can see them through your phone.
Yeah.
It's both. But yeah, if you Google Rec Room AR experiment, there's like 2 or 3 tweets there at the top that you can look at what we built. And it's like me in the office, I'm in VR. Nick, our CEO, is holding up his iPhone, and I'm like bowling down one of our like boardroom tables or something. Like that's what we're messing with, and that's public. Like you can go mess with that right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you could Google the patch notes and it'll tell you that exact room. But all you have to do is have a compatible phone or whatever. But the future of Rec Room, we are always building out more and more like creation tools for sure. So you'll see a lot more and better creation tools constantly. More, outreach to creators to be like, hey, what do you guys need? And I think we just announced some like big stuff that they've been wanting recently. Like they've been really wanting a glass, like transparent texture to put in. So I think we announced that's coming. It's like huge for them because they've been scaling up like these martini glasses that we have in the game to make glass forever. Just like whatever they can do, they'll like scale up these things, and they're like, this is what we're gonna do until you give us windows. And we're like, oh man, this room's full of giant martini glasses because it's the only thing they can like get that sort of look from. So there'll always be new creation tools coming out. And then I think something that people don't realize is our in-game economy is always progressing in terms of what players can sell for tokens. We've got people can sell inventions, so you can make like a poster and then you can put that up in your room or your dorm room, and people can buy that for tokens. And there are a lot of creators that are amassing these huge like hordes of tokens.
Do we have any Rec Room millionaires yet?
Definitely, dude. There's some people that get like millions in a week. Like
no way,
because they have such popular rooms, such popular inventions. But yeah,
if only they could cash out.
Yeah. So here's the thing: is in the future you will be able to make a career out of building stuff in Rec Room. I can't go into a lot of detail, but I will say it will be a legitimate career to build experiences and inventions and like hold events and stuff in Rec Room. That's something that is very much being worked on.
That's total sense. Total sense.
Exchanging rec tokens for real money. Wow.
Like, imagine you go to the pizza place, like, do you accept rec tokens? But the amazing thing is like that's almost like the realization of like the VR version of Second Life, right? Because that became super popular. People were making legitimate, careers out of creating content in Second Life, and it's amazing to think that that's going to happen in VR soon. So that's incredible.
Yeah, man, it's cool. I know VR Chat does a lot of. I don't know how they. I guess they don't have any way to monetize in-app, but they do that like VR Expo thing, and people sell avatars and stuff. I guess all the transactions happen outside the app, and they just don't realize any revenue from that. But yeah, I mean, it's a very established thing, right? Like,
we've got a question from the chat from Thomas Van Buell. He said, "Are you going to be doing an ICO?"
What is that?
Like an initial coin offering, like
an ICO,
like a cryptocurrency.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
that's exactly where I was going with this, though, because if you're talking about that kind of cash out feature, allowing other users like an angel investor to float their tokens towards a specific project, You could actually have, I mean, you could have a stock market in Rec Room equivalently once you've got your own economy flowing. So, I mean, you've got that already, even if it's not got its defined boundaries. But I really think that it's very exciting where you're headed with Rec Room for me.
Me too, man. I think, the next few months to a year is going to blow a lot of people's minds. They're going to be like, oh my God, I never thought of Rec Room like that. Like, it changes everything once you get to a certain level.
Yeah.
We had a question, by the way, coming from Diego VR asking if you were planning on going to Xbox and Switch.
We will be on more platforms in the future.
I like this.
Nice.
That's very good.
Any other questions from the chat? And then we'll move on to releases.
I think it's good to be moving on to releases.
Okay, cool. No, I really appreciate it. Anything else you want to add to that, Shawn, before we move on? Anything else you want to share or anything else you want to say?
I will say that we'll probably be doing more like outreach to creators and trying to spread the word of, Rec Room does have this huge like creation opportunity or all these things outside of paintball. Like, that's a narrative we want to get out there, is like, Rec Room isn't just paintball. It's also this huge suite of rooms and experiences that people have created. So I would say if anyone's interested in me ranting at you about that, whether you have another podcast or you want to write an article, reach out to me. I'm just Shawn. I changed my Twitter username right before this. It's at Shawn Rec Room, at ShawnRecroom. So hit me in DMs. I was like, listen, that's how they're gonna know. Let's make this easy on people. So
people have been calling you Shawn Rec Room for a while. I'm always like, are you Shawn Rec Room?
Are you that Rec Room Shawn?
Rec Room Shawn?
I was like, listen, it's going to be easy because they're going to punch in at Shawn and then it's going to say Rec Room. They're like, it's definitely that one.
Are you Rec Shawn Room?
So you've already got like an army of people signing up to be full-time content creators in Rec Room. They all want a career as a Rec Room builder. So I think you got people excited about that.
I would honestly say start doing it now, and then as you see more of these tools and more of the things I alluded to coming up, like, you'll be in a very good position.
I'm not joking on this. I am going to create things because I've been trying to, but I didn't know about these classes that you advertised earlier. And
what are you gonna make? Melons?
You just heard about the money, Zim. Come on, like, you heard the money, the tokens. That's what you're
I'm
doing
jealous because Zim's got 3 kids now, so he can get them through the classes while they're not at school.
Testers.
Get them churning out content. They could be making you millionaires.
Use their
before you know
little
it.
creative minds.
little Rec Room kid sweatshop going on.
You have imagine you have a counter in Rec Room. You have 3 hats that just stick above the counter. Then there's Zim just tell these customers to buy some stuff. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. I will say it's recroom.com/creative for people that are like, oh, this sounds compelling. I want to learn how to build. That's the classes. Mm-hmm. And then there's also a big link there for video tutorials. So if you're like, hey, I don't have the time to dedicate to showing up once a week for a class, there's click the video tutorials link, and we've got 20 videos that'll show you, here's how to build a book, here's how to build a PvP room, here's how to start using circuits. So the video tutorials can really guide you through it as well if you're not a class person. But I think most people learn better socially, amongst friends and stuff like that.
How to become a VR developer for dummies.
One question off of that, because someone said I should create fingerless gloves in Rec Room. If you wanted to create assets, as in, you mentioned a poster. Is it possible for people? I didn't think it's not possible for people to customize clothing, or do you have a small circle of creators who actually do?
Yeah, so we do have something called the costume dummy. So you place a dummy down, and the dummy is roughly the shape of a Rec Room avatar, it's the base avatar, and then you can design clothing on top of it. So people have made very detailed, shirts, dresses, a full 80s get up, a full 90s, whatever theme you want. People are basically building their own avatar items right now. The limitation right now is you can only wear it in the room where the dummy is placed, but eventually I think you'll probably see that system start to move more towards inventions where, you can purchase them from players, and maybe eventually once they're approved, you can wear them in every room. I don't know. This is speculation on my part. There's a different team that works on that, but there is a precedent for starting to design your own avatar items, and it's called the costume dummy. So if you're interested in that, look at the video tutorial for the costume dummy. And I also want to draw a distinction here between when people, I think a lot of people think of experience development or game development as it can be kind of boring and tedious, and like especially when you're in Unity, right? You're like in your apartment alone working on this thing, and it can kind of be soul crushing when you hit a bug or whatever. That's really the benefit of Rec Room, where you're building with your friends. So like you're in there for 5-6 hours on a weekend building something, but you were chatting the whole time, you were goofing off, you went to play paintball, and then you came back and started again. And you can have 40 people in a room all with their maker pen out, all building a different part of this castle together, while one guy's rigging up the circuits for the like siege engines and like all this stuff. So you can have all these people working at once, chatting, like someone can turn some music on, put it through their mic. Like it's social building is very different than Unity, or the way even Roblox does it, which is you have to download a client onto your machine, the way VRChat does it, which is you're also building it in Unity and uploading it. Like Rec Room's unique in that that social building thing is really just like, it's so key to getting good experiences and having people in real time, like, oh, I see what you did there, let me add to it. Oh, I see the way you did those circuits, we can actually make it better. Like you're not getting that when you're alone in Unity. So it's a huge like advantage that Rec Room has, I would say.
Excellent.
Awesome. No, it's been awesome. And it's been a real insight into a bit behind the scenes, behind sort of what goes on at Rec Room and everything else. So I really appreciate you taking some time out to join us on the show. Sure. I think the chat have really enjoyed it as well. So thank you very much for that.